So, as a cultural historian, I spend a lot of time looking at how nations are built, literally from the ground up. But honestly, Cabo Verde is entirely unique. Today, we're diving into this explainer to explore exactly how this archipelago managed to forge a vibrant, living national identity out of a fiery, completely uninhabited landscape. We're going to look at how folklore, myth, and just a really deep sense of community transformed a barren volcanic rock into a thriving cultural crucible. Let's get into it.
I want you to think about this for a second. How does a nation with absolutely no ancient ancestors actually build its identity? When we look at most nations, their folklore is rooted in thousands of years of indigenous history. But Cabo Verde, it's one of the very few places in the world with zero pre-human civilization. It was essentially this blank, surreal volcanic canvas. So the identity of this nation had to be born entirely from encounter rather than inheritance. It all began with the arrival of total strangers.
And there's just this staggering contrast between the physical reality of these islands and the cultural response of the people. I mean, faced with harsh, totally unforgiving volcanic soil and severe, relentless droughts, early settlers basically had to turn these islands into what historians call schools of endurance, right? They literally carved terraced farms right into steep slopes. They invented incredibly resourceful, hearty dishes like cachupa, which is this amazing stew made from corn, beans, and whatever fish or meat was available just to stretch their limited resources. They even turned migration itself into a survival technology, moving across the globe just to keep their families and their culture alive. Okay, so to really understand this cultural collision, we have to look at the objective history of this Atlantic crucible. Back in 1462, Portuguese explorers arrived on these uninhabited islands, and this sparked a massive, tragic collision of European empire and African enslavement that completely dominated the 16th through the 19th centuries. But out of this profound hardship, an entirely new culture was born. You had people from completely different backgrounds forced together, and from that tragedy, they forged a unified spirit. A spirit that ultimately led to Cabo Verde emerging as an independent, sovereign nation in 1975. And out of this intense collision came something amazing: Crioulo. Now, it's way more than just a Creole language that fuses Portuguese and West African influences. It actually became a third identity. Because remember, these islands possessed absolutely no indigenous past, so Crioulo became the living memory of the people. It became the primary language of storytelling, It was the very thread that bound together this incredibly diverse population into one shared identity. So naturally, it's in this language of Crioulo that their incredible myths of the sea were born. Take the legend of the giant octopus, for example. Folklore says this massive creature has its tentacles wrapped entirely around the archipelago, guarding its treasures. But when you look at the sources, you realize this isn't about gold or silver. No, the true treasures the octopus protects are Cabo Verde's rich history, its incredibly diverse people, and its captivating culture. These myths act as powerful anchors. They basically secure their collective historical wealth out in the vastness of the Atlantic Ocean. And this heavy reliance on internal virtue over material wealth is perfectly mirrored in the legend of the Ghost Island, or Ilha Fantasma. It's said to only appear in the ocean mist, acting as a refuge for lost souls. But if you look closer at the lore, discovering it actually requires a pure heart and noble intentions. This is so brilliant because it shows how their folklore acts as a literal map, not of geography, but of morality. It places spiritual endurance way, way above any physical riches. There's also another really vital piece of their folklore, the Poseidon the Chores, the seven-colored bird. Basically, it's this mythical creature said to possess feathers of every imaginable color, and it appears as a beacon of light during times of great need. And this folktale actually serves as an emotional survival tool. It's passed down to children to promise better days ahead during times of intense hardship. It teaches them not just about having hope, but about the inherent beauty and strength found in their own diversity. Now, all of this folklore, all of this shared struggle, it culminates in one absolute bedrock concept: Morbeza. This is the ultimate essence of Cape Verdean hospitality, warmth, solidarity, and community. But wait, it's not just about being polite. Not at all. Morbeza was forged as a social survival mechanism. Think about it. When you have highly diverse people thrown together in a really harsh environment, you literally have to transcend language and cultural barriers to survive. Kindness and generosity became the absolute glue that kept the nation alive. To actually grasp the sheer power of Morbeza, we kind of need to test this mythic resilience against cold, hard modern reality. Back in 1999, a catastrophic eruption of the Fogo volcano forced 1,300 people to abruptly flee their homes right in the Chá das Caldeiras crater. It was a terrifying moment. The volcanic reality of the island literally threatened to erase entire communities overnight. But this event, it just brilliantly illustrated Mirabeza in action. The volcano literally ignited a flame of solidarity across Cabo Verde. I mean, the moment the eruption started, spontaneous aid poured in. Residents from nearby towns instantly opened their homes. People, like this local volunteer named Hilario, risked absolutely everything. They used whatever fuel and vehicles they could scrape together to transport not just their own massive families, but all their neighbors to safety. It was an instant, nationwide mobilization of sheer human kindness. So we're looking at a profound contrast here, right? On one hand, you have the relentless, destructive physical fire of the earth, literal lava flows displacing entire communities. But rising up to meet it was the warm, unifying human fire of the Cabo Verdean spirit. We saw spontaneous aid, shared shelter, national unity. This response was so profound that even the President of the Republic personally visited the site to deliver an embrace of solidarity. The human spirit completely overshadowed the volcanic destruction. Well, this resilience is absolutely crucial because thanks to severe drought, migration is just a harsh reality for Cabo Verde. People constantly have to leave. And this constant movement gave birth to saudade, a profound, bittersweet longing and nostalgia. It's an emotion that just completely permeates their national psyche. And because they lack an ancient written history, music became their ultimate living archive. Saudade is the literal heartbeat of their traditional music, capturing their stories perfectly, even when they are thousands of miles from home. And honestly, no one broadcasts that living archive louder than the musical giants of the islands. They made sure this music, born out of so much hardship and hope, continues to resonate globally. Just think of Cesaria Evora, known all over the world as the Barefoot Diva. When she sang the Morna, her voice carried the island's folkloric whispers, It carried the myth of the ghost island, the spirit of Morabeza, and the deep, deep saudade of their migration history out to the entire world. And get this, even today, that musical storytelling keeps evolving in the most surreal ways imaginable. I have to share this incredible fact with you. Cabo Verde actually hosts the world's only underwater music festival near Santa Maria. Attendees literally dive beneath the waves, wearing special headphones to listen to live performances. It brilliantly intertwines marine conservation with their deep-rooted love for music. It just proves that the ocean, modern innovation, and their folkloric soul are still magically intertwined today. So all of this really leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. If a nation can forge such a vibrant, unified soul from a blank, unforgiving volcanic rock, what does that actually reveal about our own power to build community? Cabo Verde proves that identity isn't just something you passively inherit from ancient ancestors. It's something you actively create. You build it through solidarity, through art, and through the stories you choose to tell each other. I really hope this explainer has sparked your curiosity to learn even more about the incredible, enduring spirit of Cabo Verde. Thanks so much for joining me.